All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to IGTV. We have William H. Murray with us, and his talk this morning, business as usual. No longer cuts it. Gee, I wonder why he'd come up with that thing. Okay, Bill, go ahead. Take it away.
It's really kind of simple, Joe. The cost of attack against targets of choice has fallen close to that of targets of opportunity. I'm getting some feedback.
Yeah. Let me just see if I can adjust it a little. Go ahead. Try it again.
Patience helps and may even be necessary, but not much work or access is required. The necessary special knowledge is available as a toolkit for tens of dollars. Attackers are in different legal jurisdictions and may even be agents of foreign nation states. They do not and need not fear detection or identification, much less prosecution. The value of a successful attack is too high and rising. Compromised credentials may result in losses of hundreds of thousands of dollars, expensive to the banks, but a threat to the health and continuity of a small or medium business customer. Compromised systems may result in the loss of intellectual property that threatens the health, competitiveness, and continuity of the enterprise. Can you say Google? RSA? Can you say Sony? Too many web-facing applications have unchecked inputs, making them vulnerable to SQL injection and buffer overflow attacks. These attacks are resulting in the compromise of personally identifiable information and payment card information. They have become so common that many no longer make the news. While we still see bait on websites and some spam, the most efficient bait is crafted to appeal to identified individuals and is delivered via email. For many enterprises, a crafted bait message may be sufficient to compromise their whole network. The bait messages that used to appeal to fear, greed, or lust now appeal to curiosity. One report had it that the bait message addressed to RSA was labeled 2011 hiring plan. Accepting the bait may compromise the user's credentials, as we saw in Patco and Experimentals, facilitating replay attacks. Alternatively, it may compromise a system, providing a tunnel through the perimeter and an agent on the network, as we saw in RSA. The net of all of this is that business as usual simply doesn't cut it anymore. We must raise the state of the practice closer to the state of the art. We must raise the cost of attack and lower the value of success. We must raise the bar across the board. Since email is proving to be such an efficient attack vector and involved in such a large proportion of compromises, it's a good place to start. Awareness training is necessary but not sufficient. With a sufficiently large population of users, it's inevitable that one or more will take the bait. It's not stupidity or even carelessness. Rather, it is simply human nature. So, we must upgrade or outsource our email. We must use a restrictive email policy, that is, accept messages only from known sources. 90% of all your traffic comes from such sources, and they are limited in number. Quarantine or red flag everything else. Be sure that the from address agrees with the origin address. We need to expose much more of the provenance of email. Encourage users to have personal email addresses that they can access from their own mobile devices or kiosk machines provided for the purpose. Yes, it is a change in culture, but not as expensive as we pretend that it is. Since unchecked inputs is obviously part of the problem, address them. Checking inputs is much harder than it looks. Beyond the training, knowledge, skills, and abilities of most application programmers. That is why this problem, identified 40 years ago, still persists. Therefore, application programmers should all be trained and required to use the OWASP Enterprise Security API. Most enterprises still use M&M security, crisp on the outside, soft and mushy on the inside. Assume that there is no perimeter or that there is an agent on the inside. The NSA behaves accordingly. If one has or assumes that one has untrusted machines on one's network, one will want to place firewalls between all systems and their networks. And these must implement a restrictive policy. Only that traffic explicitly permitted must pass. Of course, we must have strong authentication. Credentials that cannot be replayed raise the cost of attack and reduce the value of success. More of this next week when we talk about the new authentication guidance from the Federal Financial Institutions Examination Council. Servers must talk only in secret codes. VPNs to clients, VLANs to one another. Terminate VPNs on the applications, not on the perimeter, not on operating systems. Again, a big change in culture. Applications should talk only in secret codes, only to those who have the key for the application. Lock down every system that you can. Restrict write access to programs. Part of our problem is that the population of systems that can be compromised is roughly 10 times the size it needs to be. Most users don't require the discretion to execute arbitrary programs or even to install applications. Most users could get along with thin clients to apps running on servers. If a user takes bait, but his system resists compromise, then no permanent harm may be done. Configure access control on database servers. We're relying on application servers to protect the database. They're not up to the task. Use a restrictive policy. Even these will leak, but they will raise the cost of attack over permissive ones. Most application data, personally identifiable information, payment card data, and intellectual property must be stored on object-oriented database servers, not in flat files, not on personal systems. We must have stronger application controls. It is absurd, for example, for an application to permit 92 transactions in a day for hundreds of thousands of dollars using credentials that have never been used for that purpose before against an account that normally had a zero balance and against which no more than 1 or 2 transactions had ever been made in a day. In addition to checked inputs and database controls, we need controls specific to the application. Application controls raise the cost of attack and reduce the value of success. Do you really believe that your security is that much better than Sony's? That you could resist the same kind of attack? If compromised in the same way, do you have a plan to return your network to a known and trusted state? Might you be down for 3 weeks or more? Note that the ability to do this requires rigorous separation of data and programs so that you can restore programs without the loss of data. Let me not forget monitoring, measurement, and reporting. Turning on logs is necessary but not sufficient. If one waits until after something goes wrong and looks at the logs only for forensic purposes, it's too late. There is software for integrating logs and for using them proactively to identify and resist attacks before rather than after they succeed. Restrictive policies, even for email. Least privilege, even for users. Strong authentication, stronger applications, encryption by default, and better monitoring, measurement, and reporting all around. It's time to get serious. Many of these measures are countercultural. They will have some influence on the way people do their jobs. They will generate some resistance and even some resentment. We will have to change attitudes. Notice that most of these measures don't require new tools so much as changes in how we use the tools that we already have. These are just tactics, but a change of this magnitude is really strategic. It is ambitious. It will require leadership, commitment, and planning. It will take time, of which we have precious little. If we are to continue to be called professionals and to be paid the big bucks, we must be able to look back 2 years from now and measure a marked improvement in our security posture. If you're not up to the challenge, perhaps you should update your resume. On second thought, perhaps you should consider a change in career. See you next week.
Thanks, Bill. Certainly insightful there with all the areas, especially the OWASP top 10. Maybe we'll get Tom Brennan back onto the program to kind of review them once again.
Always good to review the OWASP stuff. Those are the only people in the world who seem to really know how to do applications right.
Yeah, well, that's the AppSec focus of OWASP. So, maybe we'll bring Tom back in and have him do a couple of 5-minute spots or something like that and put that out there to everybody. Probably good training for everybody.
Okay, next week I'm going to look at the FFIEC new security authentication guidance.
Yeah, I did see that come up during the week, so it'd be interesting to see what your take is on that.
Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Bill.
Okay,
All right, bye now.
bye.
All right, bye-bye.